Shabbat Shalom. I received a WhatsApp message from my shul, my synagogue in Jerusalem. Yes, I have a shul in Jerusalem. It's where I always daven. It's where I always go when I'm there. It's another spiritual home for me. So they sent out a letter to their community, which I suspect every community in Israel that has a WhatsApp group sent out. Lechevre Beit HaKnesset Shalom Uvracha. L'or Hanchayot Pikud HaOref HaRabbanut HaRashit Beit HaKnesset Shelanu Yesagor HaShabbat Velo Yikaimu Bo Tfilot. Shabbat Shalom Uvitikva Liyamim Tovim Yoter. To the members of the synagogue, peace and blessings. In light of the instructions from the Home Front Command and the Chief Rabbinate, our synagogue will be closed on Shabbat and there will be no prayer services held here. Shabbat Shalom, and with hope for better days. This Shabbat, Jews all around Israel are staying close to home. They're staying close to bomb shelters. This Shabbat, as we know, Israel is at war. Now, it's not the kind of war that we've been living in these past few months, with rockets and tunnels and hostages still underground. This week, Israel crossed a new threshold. In the dead of night, with courage, with precision, Israeli forces struck deep inside Iran, targeting nuclear capabilities that have been 2 decades at least in the making. Reports are still emerging. It was bold. It was perilous, and it was essential. A decisive act that jolted the world back onto its moral axis, a moment of unflinching clarity and Jewish leadership the world often chooses to overlook until it's forced to reckon with it. I spoke a couple weeks ago about Menachem Begin's choice to bomb Osirak, the nuclear facility in Iraq. And as they tell in the prime minister's, he was sitting in his office, radio pressed to his ear, listening of word about the pilots flying towards Iraq, towards the reactor. And when the final plane actually landed on Israeli soil, and Begin finds out that they are all back, he says just one thing: Baruch Hashem. Thank God. And I can't help but go back even further. I often try to imagine what it must have felt like in Israel before the 6-Day War. It's almost impossible for us, with the hindsight of history as we know it, to feel the weight of that moment in real time. But I want us to try. I want us to put ourselves there. You're in Jerusalem. You're in Tel Aviv. You're listening to the radio. The air is heavy. Your neighbors are building bomb shelters. The parks are being dug up, not for constructions, but for graves, for mass graves. The world has turned its back as the armies of Egypt and Syria and Jordan are closing in on the borders. Nasser is promising to push the Jewish state into the sea. And you begin to wonder, not as some intellectual test, but in your gut, will we still be here next week? Will there be a Jewish state? Will there be a Jewish people? And yet, on the 5th of June, it begins. And within hours, the tide turns. Within 6 days, the unimaginable happens. Jerusalem is actually united. The Temple Mount, and you can hear this. If you Google this, you can hear it in real time, saying the Temple Mount is in Jewish hands. Israel, against all odds, survives. Now, it doesn't just survive. It triumphs. I imagine what it must have felt like on the 7th day, emerging from the fear, breathing again, holding your children close. Was it a miracle? Yes, of course, but not the kind where the sea splits on its own. It was a miracle made by human hands, by soldiers, by pilots and commanders who dared to act even when the outcome was far from certain. I felt some of that same emotion these last 2 days when I heard the news that Israel had carried out a precision strike on Iranian nuclear facilities, when I read that the operation had been nearly 20 years in the making, involving deep intelligence, operational courage, the technical brilliance that we expect from the IDF. I felt that mix of fear and awe again. I thought about what was avoided, what could have been. A country committed to Israel's destruction with the means to do so. I thought about the pilots that were put in harm's way, the Mossad agents who have been on the ground for God knows how long. I thought about our brothers and sisters in Tel Aviv, in Haifa, in Jerusalem, Eilat, all across Israel, that someday soon, by the way, not Thursday night, because I spoke to my son at 3:30 in the morning, his time, they will sleep more soundly, knowing that Iran's nuclear threat has been destroyed and dismantled. I thought about what it means to have a Jewish state that does not wait to be destroyed. And once again, I thought to myself, what a people we are. The strength, the resilience, the instinct we have for survival. And like Menachem Begin, I whispered to myself, Baruch Hashem, thank God. Not because the danger is over. It's not. Not because the story is finished. It isn't. But because once again, Jews refuse to be silent in the face of annihilation. Once again, we refuse to be victims of history. And once again, we summoned the courage to act. That was and continues to be a core pillar of the dream of Zionism. Not only the restoration of Jewish history or Jewish agency in history, but the renewal of a sacred covenant, our responsibility to protect Jewish life, to shape our future, and live with dignity in our ancestral homeland. And that brings us to this week's Parsha, Parshat Beha'alotcha. The Israelites are about to leave Sinai, as I mentioned earlier. They've stood at the mountain, they've received Torah, they've built the Mishkan, and now for the first time in a long time, they are preparing to journey forward, to begin the long, uncertain path through the wilderness towards the Promised Land. We, of course, know that journey will take 40 years or 39 years. They don't know that yet. It is a moment of enormous weight. After all that's been revealed, after all that's been commanded, this is God's final instruction, God's final speech before they go. Now, you might expect something stirring, inspiring. Think of like a great pregame or halftime speech, or what are you going to say before your children get married? What are you going to say before they graduate high school? What are you going to say before they go to college? This is the moment. You want to be inspiring. You want a message that they'll carry with them in their hearts. Instead, God says, make for yourself 2 silver trumpets. Chatzotzrot kesef. Trumpets. It seems, given the gravity of the moment, to be mundane. Not laws, not theology, not words of encouragement or a final charge, but make for yourself 2 silver horns. And the rabbis noticed something striking in the language. Aseh lecha. Make for yourself. Now, why would it say that? Why not just say, make 2 trumpets? And from this phrase, the Midrash, the rabbis derived a profound insight. These trumpets are not to be passed down like the menorah or the ark or the altar. These trumpets will not be family heirlooms that you use under the chuppah or at a bris or a baby naming that connect us from generation to generation. Moshe's trumpets are his alone. Each generation must fashion its own. And why is that? Because while the Torah can be given at Mount Sinai, the Midrash is teaching us that the spirit to carry it, the courage to carry it, must come from us. The Chatzotzrot are not just instruments of sound. They are vessels of resolve. They represent that final ingredient in the covenant between God and human beings. Human agency, the courage to act, the will to respond, and the strength of spirit to rise. It's as if God says, I have given you all that I can. The laws, the symbols, the traditions, the sanctuary. But now, as you get ready to leave the mountain, you must bring something of your own. You must make your own trumpets. You must sound them in times of celebration, in times of fear, in times of war, and in times of peace. And in doing so, you will awaken your own spirit. And if you rise to the moment, if you act with strength and conviction, then the sound of your trumpets will become something greater. A prayer without words, a sound that can go up to heaven, a signal that the journey forward has truly begun. There can be no fitting mitzvah with which to leave Sinai. No more fitting mitzvah to leave Sinai. Not a sacred object to preserve and pass down, but a call to courage, a call to renew, a call to act, because every generation must find its own voice in its own way to rise and respond. That's my message today. We must hear the trumpet, not just the sound of war in Israel, not just the rhetoric of protest or the silence of so many who lack the moral clarity that this moment demands, but the inner trumpet that calls us to account. Now, we are not on the front lines of this war in Israel, but we have a front line here too, in our voices, in our commitments, our advocacy, our leadership, the way we wear our Jewish pride, in what we teach our children, in what we post online, in what we support, and what we refuse to tolerate. And if you haven't done so already, I suggest you listen to Rabbi Cosgrove's stirring words from last night regarding the upcoming election in New York City. What's at stake, and why each and every one of us who lives in this city must vote in this election. And sometimes, even the calendar seems to echo our call. The operation in Iran, you may have seen this, began on what date? June 13th, which is 613. In our tradition, that number carries sacred weight. There are 613 commandments, a number that reminds us that Judaism is not just a set of beliefs. It's also a call to action. So let this date, let June 13th be more than a moment that was in the news. Let it be a moment for us of rededication, one step towards strength and solidarity, not rooted in fear, but rooted in purpose, because Israel's enemies may be preparing for a long war, but we must prepare too, not only for conflict, but for faith, for spirit, for strength, for the belief that our people don't live on borrowed time, that we don't wait for miracles, we actually make them. And that call to act, to stay awake, to stay engaged, applies not only in moments of national urgency, but in the quiet moments, the quiet rhythms of our own lives. Here at home, in this sanctuary, this is a sweet Shabbat for us as clergy. It's the last bar mitzvah of the season. Miles, you did a great job. You made us proud. It's a hat tip that summer is arriving. I may look calm, cool, and collected on the outside, but if you ask the chairman, he'll tell you that I'm like a giddy schoolboy on the last day of school, right? Summer's here. Life slows down. Routines loosen. The energy, thank God, shifts a little bit. And spiritually, many of us might begin to check out. But what if summer weren't a break from sacred obligation, but an opening towards deeper meaning? What if the season, less frantic, more open, wasn't a spiritual vacation, but rather a spiritual invitation? The door is open. The trumpet has sounded. So this summer, don't step away. Step in. Choose one mitzvah. I don't care what it is. Choose one. Read one Jewish book. Dedicate yourself to one Jewish value. Pick up a thread of belonging to our people and follow it home. Because you and me and all of us up here, we are not bit players in this story. We are characters in the world's oldest and greatest continuous story. We have chapters to write. We belong. And it's never too late to begin again. So on this challenging and very sweet Shabbat, let the trumpet sound. Let it wake us. And let it send us forward, not as bystanders to Jewish history, but as builders and shapers of Jewish destiny. May the one who blessed our ancestors bless and protect the brave soldiers of the Israel Defense Forces, those who guard our people and the promise of our future. May God shelter them beneath wings of peace, give them strength without fear, clarity without hesitation, and return them home in peace and in safety. May God watch over the land of Israel, its leaders and its people, our people. May God bring healing to the wounded, strength to the grieving, and above all, may God bring our hostages home. May God watch over this land, that we may live with courage, with moral clarity, and with the hearts attuned, our hearts attuned to the trumpet's call. Oseh Shalom Bimramav. May the maker of peace on high bring peace to us, to all of Israel, and to all the world. Shabbat Shalom, and Am Yisrael Chai.
Thank you for joining the Park Avenue Synagogue family. I hope you enjoyed the sermon. Please consider supporting our online community by scanning the QR code or by going to supportpas.org or by making a donation. Shalom and see you in Shul.